Morning, everyone. Back for our final talk around. Interesting, lively, busy week last week. Real quick, we would just want to talk about something that happened that was sort of expected. That was the indictment out of Manhattan of former President Donald Trump. Briefly, your thoughts, gentlemen?
Well, I think some people were getting concerned that maybe it wasn't going to happen, those that wanted to see it happen. It did. I was confident that the DA in Manhattan was going to bring that case. Cases like that are brought every week in Manhattan. I'm a little tired of the rhetoric from the right, people saying it's such a bad look for our country. You know, what do we look like in the world? I mean, currently the head of Israel is under indictment. Mm-hmm. You know, the French and Italian presidents, every other term seem to get indicted. Mm-hmm. This is not that unusual. It's sad. Donald Trump deserves a day in court. He deserves a fair day in court. He has good lawyers across the board this time. We will not see Rudy Giuliani anywhere. Mm-hmm. And he deserves a shot, but he deserves also, I think, to stand trial for these offenses.
Eddie?
You know, I think it's not a surprise. We've been hearing this was going to come for a few weeks. You know, and I agree to a point with Don that Donald Trump deserves his day in court, but I also believe that Hunter Biden at the same time. You know, we're seeing a two-tiered system that is going on within our country right this second. You know, and we were talking off air. One of the biggest problems is the cameras. Everybody has to play to the cameras versus being able to sit off screen and talk through issues. And, you know, this week we saw a horrible shooting here in Nashville.
Let's transition into that.
And I think that's where we really need to get to, which is get from in front of the cameras, get from in front of everything. And people need to sit down and have sane conversations about true things that need to happen, but everybody wants to stay on their soapbox so that nothing ever gets done.
But I just see a lot of finger pointing on both sides. How are we going to get to a productive point where we're doing something?
This is what I'm going to say.
We have a couple minutes left.
Going to defend my friend Eddie here for a moment. Before we started this show this morning, Eddie and I had a pretty reasonable talk about what...
Well, he's a reasonable guy, I think.
Generally, I would agree with that, and I hope he would feel the same way about me. But we both came to a lot of consensus about what could be done to make our state and our nation safer about gun laws. Folks, the people on the left, my people that I know, my friends, and I know broad stripe, they're not wanting to come in your home and take your weapons away. They're not wanting to meaningfully restrict your right to own a weapon, where there's some argument that maybe we should consider that. But we do need red flag laws. We do need better background checks. We do need to decide what kinds and what amounts of weapons ordinary citizens should possess. I think those are all really fair discussions. And with people like Tim Burchett waste our air in saying there's nothing we can do. If a bad guy wants you, he can get you. That's great when he's talking about his father in World War II with armed Japanese, but we're talking about 9-year-olds that died.
Eddie, closing thoughts. We've got just a few seconds left.
You know, again, I'm going to go back to, I think it's time for everybody to get from in front of the cameras, off their soapboxes, sit down and have reasonable conversations to come up with things that are going to protect our citizens. Government's first job is to protect the citizens. It's not to do a lot of the other social issues. It's to protect citizens, and that's what we need people in Nashville and D.C. sitting down and doing.
And right now your party gets run to the right. If you take that position, I respect you for wanting to take that position, but no one will when it comes down to it.
And notice I'm not in office anymore.
Gentlemen, appreciate it. We can't solve it today, but let's hope the discussion continues and we do see some real action. Listen, we appreciate you watching Inside Tennessee this morning. We'll be back next.